On this episode of Mom Sipping Sangria,
I really, really missed the work. I missed the challenge, but I went with my heart and I went with the life I wanted to create.
I'm good. Let's do it.
Welcome to Mom Sipping Sangria. I'm Sheila Walsh.
And I'm Anita Reynolds MacArthur, sipping on a Get Me Through COVID Sangria. This is strong, Sheila. Now, I have to say, before we get into this, that we're actually not sitting together. We're in our own homes. But Sheila wanted to surprise me, so Ian actually put this sangria together for me.
Yes.
And wow, do tell.
So it is my very own recipe, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
Very easy, okay? So we've got a 1/4 cup apricot brandy, a 1/4 cup peach schnapps, a bottle of wine, 1 sliced orange, 1 sliced lime, 1 cup strawberries, and hold the ginger ale.
And hold the ginger ale. Yeah, no kidding.
And that's how you get through November and COVID. And that's why we call it a Get Me Through COVID Sangria.
That's so funny because he was like, I got to get out to the liquor store. And I'm like, but you can buy your stuff just at like the local grocery store. And he comes in and he's like hiding the bag. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Not this time, lady.
It's COVID. I'm not going to ask.
I would do more of a shot versus a full glass of sangria because otherwise, we should probably put a disclaimer. Do not try these things at home. Anyway, so Anita, last episode, you seemed a little down and you were going through a rough patch. And I think you and I talked about how this is a time, we're going back into winter here anyway in Ontario. And, things get dark and bleak. And I was just thinking, maybe you can share your experience in the last month or so.
Sure. I'm feeling a little bit better now, but I have to say I'm not used to having like a full-on depression or anything like that. I've been very fortunate. I do have a little bit of anxiety here and there, but nothing to flag. But the last month has been a very difficult one, and I think it has to do also with, COVID and these scaling back. We had come so far with it throughout the summer, and they had mentioned that we were going to be going backwards with COVID and the numbers were going to spike and blah, blah, blah. But I just, for me, I think the first time around, I felt like I was the family cheerleader. I was their confidant. I was the sounding board. I was, all these things. And then this time around when it started to hit and the kids and even Ian, started with that again, it just compounded on me and I physically couldn't take it. Like my brain was so full and overflowing and I just had a really hard time functioning through my day. And I had to really sit with myself. I had to talk to the family. I talked to all of them. They've been very good, very compassionate. They've since decided, I guess, to talk to each other about most of the things that are going on. I had to scale back how much news I was watching again. I have done meditation, as you know, for the past 5 years on and off, but I decided to go back and do it daily. And that has been just like a lifesaver because I felt like the only way I can equate it is if you have a sink that's plugged and then if you can actually get it to drain and flow again, that's what my brain felt like. And the meditation, just 20 minutes a day, actually just cleared everything because when you're doing meditation, you're not thinking about anything. And so I was able to filter out all of that junk so that when the kids did come to me or Ian came to me or I watched the news or anything, it wasn't already full and plugged up. I was able to take in the information and, accept it.
Well, I'm super proud that you recognized that because I think what happens is a lot of people get to that full sink stage and then they're not quite sure how to unplug. And that's a really good analogy. So the fact that you already had these tools was great. And I think people need to, especially going into this new stage and winter, that we need to arm ourselves with tools. I bought snowshoes because I thought I'm just going to run away in the snow when I start feeling all wackadoodle. And I bought a SAD light therapy. You might not need them, but just in case you do, you might as well be proactive as opposed to reactive. So good on you. Are you feeling better now? Are you thinking you're able to dedicate these 20 minutes to yourself every day?
I have been up to this point, and I plan on continuing that. I do, I am feeling better. I don't feel 100%, but I'm definitely way better at being able to sort of handle whatever the day has to throw at me. And for those who haven't heard season 1, episode 3, we talk about meditation and mindfulness with our wonderful guest, Michelle Zarin. If you're new to meditation and mindfulness, then that would be a great way to start.
In that episode, you introduced me to Insight Timer app, which has been, again, one of my tools. And I have shared that with so many different people because it offers, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, how to meditate. It has like 1 minute breathing meditation. So I owe you big for that because that really helped me. As you know, I was in the same situation this time last year, how you were feeling, and I needed to really amp up my tools. And so that helped me. Sarah Beth Yoga, the yoga channel, that really helped me. And, talking to people who are professionals certainly can help. I think you're a little nuts if you're not talking to a therapist these days.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, Insight Timer. Thank you for mentioning that app, Insight Timer, because that was actually Aaron Davis who put me onto that one a few years back. And that is the one that I use consistently daily again.
Yeah.
But they also have, just music, or you can have crystal bowls. You can have guided. I mean, that's how I started, was with the guided meditations. And that's how I came upon Michelle Zarin, because all of her meditations are on the Insight Timer app. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks to Erin Davis. And speaking of Erin, we have one of her very good friends joining us today. And this woman we're going to talk to was another influence in my early career. Do you have people like that in your circle that gave you direction and some guidance early on?
Oh, I most definitely do. In educational publishing, all the way through, I've been in it now for, a couple of decades, not to give away my age or anything.
You're 29.
But there were definitely a couple of people that, either helped me learn the whole editorial process. I'd already gone to school for it, but just, the office politics and that kind of thing helped me through that. The writers as well. I have a couple that are, definitely in my toolbox all the time whenever I need inspiration.
Yeah, well, one of mine, as I mentioned, was Lisa Brandt, who we're going to speak to in a minute. I was a city girl, finished my education learning radio broadcasting. I had to start in a small town, so I relocated to this town in the middle of nowhere called Wingham, Ontario. Great town, postal code NOG 2WO. No one goes to Wingham, Ontario. And and Lisa Brandt was one of the only women there, and I went to her several times, and I was away from my boyfriend, who I married, Greg, and never left home, and I was in this small town, and so she really impacted and had an effect on me. Lisa is still in radio, and like most women, has 100 other things going on at all times, including authoring 5 books. She's a freelance writer, voice artist, the list goes on. Anita, you know Lisa as well from where?
So I've known Lisa for many years. She's worked for the radio family that my husband Ian works for. And she was also a contributor for the lifestyle and parenting blog that I was a senior editor on. So I got to know Lisa quite well that way. Wow. Amazing writer.
Amazing indeed. And here is our chat with Lisa Brandt. Lisa Brandt, one of my early heroes. Welcome to Mom Sipping Sangria. How you doing, lady?
Oh, I'm doing really well. It just warms my cold little heart to hear you say that. That's so nice.
Well, we were talking about early influences. You and I, one of the few women in this one place, and you certainly had my back, so that was awesome.
Well, we had to stick together because it was really us against them, and we were outnumbered.
Totally.
So.
Well, it's really nice to have you here, Lisa. Thanks for taking the time. Now, you've had quite a few changes over the last, I'm going to say, about 10 years or so in your life, maybe even longer, in terms of career, in terms of where you're living, even like your home life. So let's start with now, you were a Toronto City girl. What made that change for you?
Well, that was love. My whole career, pretty much, I put the priority on my career and not on my home life. You can tell because I'm twice divorced. But I decided that when I reunited with the love of my life, who I thought was gone forever, it was time to change my priorities and make it about my life, not my work, and not make my work my life, make work part of my life. And that was a new approach for me. It was a new way of going about things. And it wasn't without it, I wouldn't say regrets, but I second-guessed myself a few times, but I'm really glad I did it.
You really left high-profile positions in the radio industry to follow this love that took you away. But were there underlying conditions that kind of made it easier for you to do that?
I think it was mostly that I never really felt like I had a home. I never really felt like I was in a city that felt like home, except London. I worked here many years ago, and had it not been for the work situation, I probably wouldn't have left. But it was just, felt like going home. And my husband comes from a big family, and they become my tribe, and again, it was concentrating on a life, not just a career. Got my motorcycle license. I took the time to write more. I just reorganized things and went with my heart.
Nice. And you worked in radio for a little while in London, but what happened?
I worked for a few radio stations here, and the last one I was quite enjoying the work, and I love the people I work with, but they just kept piling more on me, and more on me, and I would have been a moron to stay because I was getting up in the middle of the night and doing the job of about 4 or 5 people, and it wasn't fun. And so it was time to shift again. So now I'm freelance doing voice work and writing and different things, and I'm my own boss. I don't make the money I did, but oh well, I make enough to have a good life, and my husband does the same. We both work from home. We help each other, and I'm just so much happier.
And that's the thing, when you nailed the hammer on the head. I was going to say whatever that saying is. You when it's not fun, when you've lost that passion, that's a good signal to make that change. You weren't living to work; you wanted to work to live now. So good on you. I think more of us need to do that.
Well, especially in this kind of job where you're on the radio, and if it's not fun, you're doing something wrong, because we're not making widgets and getting carpal tunnel syndrome from it. We're not on our feet all day. We're not doing a lot of other jobs that people do. If it's not fun, then really what's the point of it? And I've had sleep issues with getting up early and napping and just all those things, and I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling very healthy, and the clock is ticking. So I thought, other people will do this. Why can't I? There's no reason. There's no reason I can't.
Well, I think both Anita and I totally respect that shift and change, because Anita, you did the same thing. You kind of said, this wasn't working for me a year ago, and that's how we started this podcast, right?
That's right. And, actually, Lisa was working with me at the time as one of the contributors. And so not being in radio, of course, this was the publishing world, but it's the same thing. Once it's not fun anymore, then it's not worth it anymore. And same thing. It was great pay. That was one of the reasons why I took the job in the first place. And now I'm not making as much, but my quality of life is so much better because of it.
And I think there are a lot of, I find that the younger people, like my nieces and nephews, got that from the outset. For some reason, I didn't, and it was always, chase this, chase that, and that's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what fulfills you, but it didn't fulfill me. And I want to say, Anita, you're the second best supervisor I've ever had, because right now I'm my own supervisor, so I have to put me on top.
You work very well with yourself, Lisa.
I'm kind of a hard ass on myself, but I let myself get away with it too. So.
The demands are crazy. Let's get into one of the other many things you do. You're a very talented writer. Your portfolio has something for everyone. Was wondering if we could play a game of word association. I'll say your book titles, and you tell us what you learned from writing them. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Naked truth.
Oh, humility.
Okay.
I hear from a lot of people who are reading that book. That book continues to sell. It makes me laugh because I'm not the naked one, but oops, I gave that away. Anyway.
Well, why read it now? But you did. You learned a lot about being comfortable with nudity.
Oh, yeah, being around it. And but of course, I had the bravado of a 19-year-old at the time, and nothing was going to faze me. The world was mine, but I look back now and I just shake my head. It's like, oh, my mother let me go. Oh, my goodness. But anyway.
All right. Celebrity Tantrums, another one of your books.
Steep learning curve. That's what I would say. I had my first professional editing experience working on a cover with the great Aislinn, who is a Montreal cartoonist. Steep learning curve. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Okay. Make the media want you.
That was cathartic. That was the result of years of getting bad pitches from people and people hounding me thinking that I was going to give in to them when what they had to offer had nothing to do with my audience at all, which was my primary concern. So that was catharsis.
And I bet you that book could translate into, doesn't have to be media. It make the person you're trying to sell yourself to want you. I bet you there's a lot of parallels in that book.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, Venus Rising.
Well, there was a special satisfaction in that. What would I say about that? Celebrity Tantrums was with a publisher, ECW Press, and it was two men at the helm of ECW Press at the time, and they split up, and I don't know what happened there, if they had a falling out or just a business thing, I have no idea. But the one partner left, and all of his authors had their books canceled. So Venus Rising was being edited, and the cover was being designed. It was called Starting from Scratch. And after I licked my wounds for a while and felt I was healed from the horrible experience of being dropped from the publisher, I updated all the stories, renamed it, got my brother-in-law to do the cover, and put it out on my own.
Wow.
You talk about many different people in Venus Rising, so I'm just going to pick out a couple here. We've got Oprah Winfrey, Tina Turner, Faith Hill, Shania Twain, Barbara Walters, Rosie O'Donnell. Why did you pick these people in particular?
Well, they all started from nothing. They didn't have somebody hand them a career. They didn't have, Tina Turner wasn't born into like a Jackson 5 family. They just had to build everything on their own. Shania Twain, I happen to know about personally because my ex-husband was a musician who played with her sometimes, and I knew that she had started from nothing. And that's where this idea came from. It's like, you know what? These women who weren't born in Hollywood, their last name isn't Kardashian, and they can make something of their lives. What's stopping you? That was the whole idea of it.
Right. And that's such an important theme. So that determination, and if you are considering, like you did, Lisa, totally changing your life, it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible. It just might take you a little bit more than the average person, depending on your goals, I suppose. The other book, My Sepsis Story, tell us about that. There's a whole world of people who do not understand what this is about. So let's get into that.
Yeah. When I got sick, I thought I had the flu, and I came very, very close. They said I had just had hours left to live by the time we figured out it was sepsis. But I had been misdiagnosed a bunch of times, and, doctors dismissing me. My doctor's office wouldn't even see me because it was flu season. And I very, very easily could have died. In fact, I came very, very close. I was falling into a coma when I got taken to the hospital. But sepsis is something that maybe you hear in the periphery or you've heard somebody say and don't really know what it is. And it was sort of my mission. I wrote the story because it's a cautionary tale, but also because I want people to say, what is sepsis? And to look into it, because if I had known, I would have gone into the clinic and just said, you've got to test me for sepsis. And sepsis is the body's overreaction to an infection, and you actually become toxic from it. People lose limbs, they end up in comas they never recover from, and tens of thousands around the world, millions, die every year. It's the number one cause of death worldwide when you factor everything in. So it's one of those things that you figure, everybody knows how to recognize the common cold or a heart attack even, but my goal was to get sepsis out there.
And can I tell you, Lisa, that exact scenario happened to me. I was hours away from death as well with sepsis. And that's why when Anita was telling me about this book you wrote, I thought, oh my God, because I had never thought it was an issue too. I went in and I was hospitalized for a week. I was being resuscitated with hours left. Yeah. So this happened about 10 years ago, and my youngest was only 2. And I'm looking at the 6 signs of sepsis, and I think it's really important that we talk about that. Very much like the flu, right? Fever and chills, low body temperature, urination is less because you're dehydrated, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Fast heartbeat.
And, the other thing is feeling like you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I didn't have the flu. Couldn't get any medical people to agree with me. So feeling like this could be it. That's a hard one to describe.
I'm going to ask you both of you have had it 2 out of 3. Yeah. Holy cow. One of the reasons that we started talking about this, Sheila and myself, was because a neighbor of mine, her mother was misdiagnosed. And then when she was telling me the symptoms, I said to her, you know what, this sounds like what Lisa Brandt had. I didn't know that Sheila had this actually. And so I said, you know what, go to your doctor and tell them to test for sepsis. And that's exactly what she had as well. Mm-hmm. So it, like you said, it goes misdiagnosed. Can it hit at any time for anybody?
First, thank you for that. That just gave me shivers. I'm so happy that somebody, from learning from it, something happened. Children get it, newborns, it can happen. It can absolutely happen to anybody. And a cousin's wife died as I was recovering from sepsis because she didn't misdiagnose herself. She was a nurse. Yeah. It's one of those things, I don't want everybody panicking, thinking every time they get the flu, they got sepsis, but it's one of those things that you need to have in your little kit of knowledge. And it can be anybody at any time.
And Lisa, you nailed, there's that saying again, was it nailed the hammer on the head? You hammered the nail on the head. It's a different sick. I remember feeling I've never felt this sick before.
Yeah, that's what I kept telling that doctor. He said, no, it's the flu. And I said, I'm telling you, I'm this many years old, and I know it's not the flu. I've never had a flu feel anything like this. And he just waved his hand, like, no, it's the flu. Doctors get overworked, they get stressed, all these different things happen. It's up to you to advocate for yourself or your family member and just keep pushing. If I hadn't called 911, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You wouldn't, right?
There you go.
Now, you're affiliated with the Global Sepsis Alliance. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I did a webinar on World Sepsis Day, a worldwide webinar, and just made sure that I allowed them to use my story in materials, and met some of the doctors. We have amazing doctors right here in London and there are lots in Toronto who are working on sepsis and making it their life's mission to cause awareness and to come up with rapid testing, because right now there's no actual sepsis test. There's a bunch of different things that will tell you a person has sepsis, right? So there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, they're more eliminating what it can't be versus, it's definitely sepsis. And that's where the problem comes into it. So, yeah, and it's making it even more complicated because people are on high alert with COVID. And they're like, oh my gosh, maybe this is COVID. And I can't even imagine how, overwhelming it must be for the medical community. But like you said, Lisa, if you're ill, you have to advocate for yourself. Anita went through this you were feeling toxic and you went to a naturopath because your doctor wasn't really getting it. You really have to be your own advocate.
Yeah, you really do. And I'll tell you, they were going to operate on me a bunch of times because my liver is what was under attack. When I started to get better, they didn't know if they would have to remove part of my liver. Anyway, it ended up they didn't have to, but the surgeon sat on the side of my bed one time, and I said, what do I do about this one doctor? And he said, let me tell you something. Do you know what they call a medical student who gets 49% on his final exam? They call him a doctor. And that just really hit home. Like, not everybody's an honor student. You think they all are. We tend to think doctors are all infallible. They're just people.
Yeah. And we put a lot of trust in them, so they have to be the right one. And to all the doctors who are really great, oh my gosh, they are literally lifesavers. But then there are a few who shouldn't be so quick to dismiss people if we know our own bodies, right? We know it better than they do in some cases. Yeah. So anyway.
Exactly.
So Miss Lisa, you are awesome. And if people want to find out more about you and your books, where can they find you?
Lisa is awesome. No, my
LisaIsAwesome.com.
Nobody has given me that kind of a review, so I want to keep it. My website is voiceoflisabrandt.com, and Brandt is spelled Brandt, and the books are on Amazon and everywhere else. Most of them are ebooks, some are hard books, and I'm working on a novel right now that I'm trying to shop. So, I'm delving into fiction now, so there'll be more to come.
Ooh, very good.
Well, there's nothing you can't do, Lisa. So I know that will come to fruition very, very soon for you. So we want to thank you for your time today, and stay safe and stay well.
Thank you so much, ladies, and you as well. I'm enjoying this social isolating a little too much. Thank you. So
All right,
out here in farm country, all I see are the soybeans. So.
Well, it's time to raise a glass or take a pass, and this is where we cheer someone or something great, or we toss one of them sangrias over their head. Are you raising a glass or taking a pass this time, Anita?
Well, Sheila, I'm going to actually toss a sangria, and it's going to be a big one. It's towards impatient and rude restaurant guests. Ava is now working at a restaurant, and she's the hostess or the greeter as people come in to be seated. And I can't tell you with COVID how ridiculous people are. Come in, they know they have to wear their masks. They come in without a mask and say, seat us anyways. They get rude if she says, I'm sorry, I can't let you without, a mask. They come in and they don't have a reservation. The place is packed and she's like, I'm sorry, we can't take you. And they just absolutely rude. They'll specifically request a particular table when they make their reservation. They get that table and they'll say that this is not good enough. I want to sit over there. Like it's just, and you have to understand that they're not working and functioning at full capacity, these restaurants. They are scaled back. They cannot fill the place. But they're just literally, they're so rude, Sheila. It's just, she comes back with so many stories. It's terrible.
Good on Ava. And I think when you're younger, you're a bit more tolerant of that stuff. Like now, I don't know about you, like wouldn't you just sit there and say, you know what, off? Like I would
man. I mean, the other day she had a gentleman come in and he wanted to place an order for takeout.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, well, there's too many people in this front foyer. Please go back to your car and, we will call you when you can come in to put your order in. He was adamant that he was going to stay right where he was and he was not going to move until she took the order. And it's just, they're so rude.
You know what, Anita?
Yeah.
I think if we actually understand where someone rude or ignorant or belligerent is coming from, then we would be just like them. So we're not like them. So we're not meant to understand them because they are sometimes below humans.
Oh, man. Yeah. I can't imagine how they would act under normal circumstances.
Well.
But, like understand, have compassion. We are going through COVID. It is a pandemic, and there are certain rules and regulations that are put in place by the government. And, we need to follow them. And these young kids, that's what they're doing. They're just following the rules.
Exactly. Poor Ava and poor everybody who has to deal with that nonsense. So we raise a glass to her, even though she's not of age. She can drink a virgin sangria. We toss a full-on flaming sangria over the heads of the idiots who are just nasty people.
You've just given me an idea. There may be a story in my local paper coming up soon.
Flaming mom sipping sangria. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Sheila, and how about yourself?
I'm actually going to raise a glass to somebody who we're going to be talking about a little later on in the show in the Good News Chronicles. His name is Steve Saylor, and I'm going to raise a glass to him. And you'll understand why when we get to that part. So a little mysterious before we move on. And that is my answer of who I'm going to raise a glass to.
Ooh, well, I'm intrigued. I can't wait till we get to that part.
Yes. It's going to be so great. You have no idea what's coming.
No, I don't. So in addition to these things or people that we've tossed or toasted, we have a few favorite things on our website, which we raise a glass to each episode. We would love to share those with you. You can find them on our Fave Finds page on our website, momsippingsangria.com. Sheila?
Yes. So this is actually a fave find of my husband, Greg. So Greg is displaced from work. He normally goes back and forth to work. But since late spring, he's been working from home. And because he's an audio guy, it's very hard to find space to, work the way he's used to. He and I have to share this office where we record because it's a studio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, he bit the bullet and bought a laptop. These things are not cheap, I will tell you right now. But it has made the difference for him. He loves it. He's now able to do so many more things. He's so productive. So if anyone's out there struggling to make things work, it's a great laptop all around, but he would certainly recommend as something that's made his life during COVID working at home 1,000 times easier. What about you, Anita?
Mine, I'll tell you, is actually, it's a wireless and Bluetooth speaker. It's portable. It's you can get them in various sizes. It's the brand itself that I absolutely love, and it looks really chic, but the sound is incredible, and it's got a 10-hour battery life, and it's got bamboo panels on it, which really is different and sets it apart from everything else that's out there. So we have it like a small version of it, a medium, large. I've like gone cuckoo with this particular brand. So we'll check out our Faye Finds page for that.
So cheers to all those people, places, and things. And of course, we raise a glass to you as well. Cheers.
Cheers. We've come to the part of the show which we call the Sangria Chronicles, where we feature good news stories only. Because who wants to sip and cry?
Not I.
There's enough of there's enough of that going on in the world around us. So let's put on those rosé colored glasses and focus on the good news only. It's your turn.
Yes, ma'am. So this is a story about somebody I actually know. He's an acquaintance of mine, young guy. His name is Steve Saylor. Steve is legally blind, but that hasn't stopped him from being, a digital media expert, podcaster. He was a podcaster long before it was a thing. He's a web designer, content creator, gaming influencer, and accessibility advocate, okay? So gaming and accessibility, the key to what you're about to hear. And I'm saying about to hear because I'm going to play you something. So Steve goes by the title Blind Gamer. He has a huge following. And for years, he has played games as a legally blind person, hence Blind Gamer. He's made do and he's had fun with the fact that it doesn't always go in his favor. He's the first kind of poke fun at himself. So fast forward to this past year when he gets an advance copy of a new release of a popular video game called The Last of Us Part 2. This contained extensive accessibility options for players with disabilities, the first of its kind. And this, Anita, is Steve reacting. He was filming himself as he opened it up. This is Steve reacting to those accessibility options. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I don't even know what to say. There's so much here. This is what, with myself and people in the accessibility community, this is what we've been advocating for so long. This is why I do what I do. This is why I work so hard to promote accessibility. This is why, because this is important.
And that was Steve. What'd you think of that?
Oh my gosh, my heart, Sheila. That's incredible.
Yep.
Wow, what a raw reaction.
Yeah, and he wasn't sure he was going to post it because it's so raw. And he's a very private and normally jovial guy, but this had such impact. Can you imagine your whole life making do with what is normal, and then somebody actually recognizing, hey, you might need a little bit of additional help, and here it is, and all of a sudden your world changes. So he posted this on his Twitter account. It went viral from across Canada to CNN to BBC. He just shared it with me recently, and I thought, oh my gosh, if this is not good news and such an important topic, what is? So congratulations to Steve, and I'm just so happy that he was able to experience that, and hopefully it's a lesson for all of us to make, think of everybody, universal design when you're doing anything, because that's how much it means to people who, require additional accommodations. So if you have a good news story to share, or you would like to cheer someone who did something that made you or others happy, we would love to hear it. You can send it in via our website, momssipping.sangria.com. All right, let's spill the sangria. Any juicy or funny stories you want to spill over a sangria, Miss Anita?
Well, actually, there is, Miss Sheila.
Well, fascinating.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but in our last episode, I actually talked about how I have these Claire Dunphy moments, and Claire Dunphy is the main mom on Modern Family, the TV show. And so very recently, I had another Claire Dunphy moment.
Right.
For his birthday, which was in September, Hayden got a sweatshirt, and it's black and it has red writing on it, and he loves this thing. He basically sleeps in it. He actually wore it with a t-shirt underneath. He wore it every single day for a month before I was able to peel it off him to wash it.
It's such a teen boy thing, isn't it?
Totally teen boy. So he's wearing this black sweatshirt, and I go to pick him up, and of course he's got his mask on, and he knows I'm always in a certain spot in the parking lot, and he usually comes over. But I see him, and of course now with COVID, he has not gone to get his hair cut once. So his hair is now long, shaggy. So I see him from afar, and he's not coming over. He's with his friends, and he's chatting, and I'm like, hey, you're not supposed to be chatting. He's got his black mask on. And I'm trying to get his attention, like, buddy, I'm in the parking lot. What is wrong with you? So eventually he looks over after flipping his hair 10 times, and I wave. And then this car moves away. Just as I finish waving, I realize it's not Hayden. The logo is green. The logo is not red. And I was just mortified. I'm like...
Can you imagine what that poor kid was saying? Like, who is this nut bar in the parking lot? Stranger danger, stranger danger.
Total mom move.
They shouldn't jump out of your car and drag him by the ear into your car or something.
Just another one of my many Claire Dunphy moments.
Okay, we want to thank our guest, Lisa Brandt, for joining us today, and you as well. Thank you for letting us hang out with you, and we hope you're staying well and healthy. Remember, our past episodes, fine sangria recipes, and all other great stuff can be found on our website, momssipping.sangria.com. So before we sign off, we will leave you to sip on this question.
Yeah. What was your last guilty pleasure?
Does the bottle of wine last night count?
It could.
I'm sure I come up with a better one, but that was my last guilty pleasure.
Well, now that we know what Sheila's guilty pleasure is, let's all take a minute and think about what our guilty pleasure was.
It's a good one. Makes you think. All right. Well, that's it for now. Till next time, have a good one.
Have a good one. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
We are Moms Sipping Sangria. That's a nice first start.
Oh, remove background noise.
Yeah, try that. What am I doing? Right on, man.
Alrighty.
Mom Sipping Sangria is produced by Elm Podcasting.